I lit the match and held it to the corner of my brother's confession letter. Watching the flames lick up the words he'd scrawled in panic. It was me.
Carl.
The money. All of it. The paper curled black in the motel sink, but the smoke carried straight to my lungs like a promise of hellfire. That night, I drove straight to the family estate and slit the tires on every car in the driveway, starting with Daddy's prized Cadillac, whispering, "This is just the appetizer." They'd always said girls like me were built for breeding heirs, not boardrooms. But when the feds came knocking about the missing millions from Harrington Investments, it was my signature they forged on the wire transfers. Alex, my golden boy brother, had siphoned it off for his coke-fueled poker nights in Vegas. But Mom and Dad? They pinned it on me faster than you can say, patriarchy's favorite scapegoat. Caroline's always been flighty, Dad told the investigators. His drawl thick as Texas crude. Probably blew it on some liberal college dream. Mom just cried those crocodile tears, clutching her pearls like they were the family Bible. I was 19, fresh off a 4.0 GPA and a full ride to Yale, early acceptance. The works. But that letter from New Haven? Dad tossed it in the trash right there at the dinner table, his steak knife clattering against the china. Girls don't need Yale, Caroline. They need a ring on that finger and a man to keep them in line. Alex smirked across the linen, his eyes glassy from whatever he'd popped in the bathroom. I should have seen it then, the way his pinky ring glinted under the chandelier. Bought with blood money he hadn't even earned yet. But I was too busy choking down my rage with a side of creamed spinach, dreaming of ivy-covered walls and a life beyond this suffocating ranch-style prison in Dallas. The betrayal hit like a gut punch 2 weeks later. The feds showed up at dawn, badges flashing like Judgment Day. Dad had called them. I learned later, tipped them off with doctored ledgers that made it look like I'd been skimming since high school. For the good of the family, he justified in his deposition, which I read under the fluorescent buzz of a holding cell. Alex got a slap on the wrist, community service, a trust fund bump to rehabilitate him.
Me?
They yanked my Yale spot, slapped me with felony fraud charges, and watched as the plea deal turned me into a pariah. 18 months probation. No college. No future. Just a scarlet letter-branded ungrateful daughter across my chest. I didn't cry.
Not then.
I packed a duffel with Mom's heirloom jewelry, the stuff she'd inherited from her oil baron daddy, and hitched a ride to Austin. The city lights blurred past like taunts, but I had a plan brewing, dark and viscous as the resentment pooling in my veins. I'd make them pay. Not with bullets or bombs, but with the one currency they worshipped, cold, hard cash. And I'd build it from the gutter, brick by filthy brick, until their empire crumbled under the weight of mine. Austin was a fever dream of bootstrap bullshit and barbecue smoke. I crashed on a sorority dropout's couch, peddling knockoff handbags on 6th Street to scrape by. Nights, I'd huddle over a cracked laptop in dive bars, teaching myself code from free YouTube vids and library books. Python, algorithms, blockchain, the holy trinity of the digital gold rush.
Why?
Because in 2012, crypto was still whispers in dark web forums, a rebel's gamble against the suits who thought they owned the world. Like my family. My first break came from a barista gig at a hipster coffee joint, where I overheard 2 venture bros griping about Bitcoin volatility. It's chaos, one whined, nursing a flat white. No one's cracking the hedge. I slid into the booth uninvited, my apron still dusted with grounds. What if you could predict the dips with machine learning? Feed it market data. Sentiment from Twitter, boom. Algorithmic edge. They laughed at first. This nobody waitress with grease in her hair. But I sketched it out on a napkin, a simple neural net model. Nothing fancy, but enough to spark their greed. By week's end, I had a $5,000 seed from their test fund. I rented a closet-sized office above a talk area, bought a second-hand server, and christened it Vengeance Ventures.
Corny?
Hell yes.
But it fueled me.
Days blurred into code sprints and cold calls, nights into ramen and revenge fantasies. I'd picture Dad's face when the headlines hit. Harrington heiress turned hustler tops Forbes 30 under 30. Or Mom, gasping as I bought the country club where she'd blackballed me. The app launched 6 months in. Crypto Shield, a predictive tool that scraped social media for whale signals and spat out buy sell alerts with 78% accuracy. Early adopters were Deegans and day traders. But word spread like wildfire through Reddit threads and HackerCons. Revenue trickled. Then poured, $50K month 1, $200,000 by quarter 3. I hired my first dev, a tattooed ex-con named Rico who got pinched for hacking ATMs but had a knack for encryption. "What's your angle, boss?" he asked over IPAs one night. I clinked bottles, burning it all down. Back home, the family festered like an open wound. Alex was thriving. Of course, Daddy's little prince handed the reins of Harrington Investments like a silver spoon. He'd married some debutante from Highland Park, popping out trust fund tots while schmoozing at galas I used to crash as the spare daughter. Mom sent passive-aggressive Christmas cards. "We're praying for you.
Dear.
Come home when you're ready to apologize." Apologize? For what? Existing? For being the one they sacrificed on their altar of appearances? I ignored them, scaling vengeance into a beast. By 2015, we'd pivoted to fintech, launching ShieldPay, a blockchain wallet that anonymized transactions for the paranoid elite. Celebrities, oligarchs, even a few cartel whispers I turned a blind eye. Ethics were a luxury I couldn't afford. Valuation hit $10 mil. I cashed out a sliver for a loft in East Austin. All exposed brick and skyline views. But success tasted like ash without reckoning. So I started small, anonymous tips to the SEC about Alex's creative accounting. Nothing stuck. Daddy's lawyers were sharks, but the audits kept him twitchy, popping Xanax like candy. Then came the real hook, a leaked email chain from a Harrington insider, forwarded to me by a ghost from my past. Elena, my old nanny, who'd quit in disgust after the plea deal. "Your brother's at it again," she wrote. "Bigger this time. Offshore shells in the Caymans. Your parents know." Attached, PDFs of transfers totaling $15 mil, funneled through dummy core. My hands shook as I printed them, the ink bleeding like accusations. This wasn't just greed, it was a dynasty built on my bones. I could have gone nuclear, FedEx the files to the DOJ, watch the dominoes fall.
But no.
Revenge isn't a sprint, it's a slow bleed. I flew to Dallas incognito, blonde wig and oversized shades, and bought a burner phone from a gas station off I-35. First call, to Alex's wife, Brittany. Ask him about the Cayman accounts. I purred, voice modulator making me sound like a chain-smoking PI. Or lose everything. She hung up, but the ripple spread. By morning, their marriage counselor had a new client. Word got back through the grapevine. Alex was unraveling, paranoia gnawing at his edges. He started ghosting board meetings, convinced the walls had ears. Dad covered. Of course. blaming stress. But I smelled blood. I upped the ante, hacked his email, Rico's handiwork, untraceable, and forwarded select threads to Mom's prayer circle busybodies. Deaconess Harrington's son in money laundering scandal? The scandal whispers flew faster than Delta jets. Still, they clung to denial like life rafts. Until the gala. The Harrington Foundation's annual black tie bash at the DMA, Dallas Museum of Art, where old money preened like peacocks. I'd scored an invite through a shell donor, Vengeance's tax write-off strategy. Slipped in like a shadow in emerald silk, the dress-hugging curves I'd earned from spin classes and spite. Alex spotted me first, across the ballroom, his face draining like bad moonshine.
Caro?
What the foo? Show, I hissed, champagne flute steady in my grip. Wouldn't want to cause a scene. He grabbed my arm, nails digging crescents.
You bitch.
This is you, isn't it? The leaks, the calls, his breath reeked of bourbon and fear. I twisted free, smiling for the crowd. Paranoia doesn't suit you, brother dear. Try therapy. Dad materialized like a specter, Tuck's crisp as his conscience wasn't. Caroline. We thought you were. Rehabilitated. His eyes flicked to my décolletage. Then away, disgust or desire. Who could tell with him? Mom hovered behind, her Botox smile cracking at the edges. Darling, you've changed. Fortune favors the bold, I quipped, channeling every rom-com I'd binged in exile. But inside, the hook twisted deeper. This was the precipice, the moment to drop the bomb. I pulled the USB from my clutch, dangling it like Damocles' sword. Everything's here. The forgeries from 2012. Alex's little habits. Your signatures.
Dad.
Greenlighting it all. The orchestra swelled, a Strauss waltz mocking the tension. Alex lunged, but security, my security, embedded as caterers, stepped in. Dad's face purpled. You wouldn't. We're family. Family. The words slithered out like venom. Family is what you made me, I shot back. A fall guy for your fuck-up air. Mom whimpered, drawing stares. Please.
Caroline.
Think of the scandal.
Skandal.
Their god. Their devil. I leaned in, voice ablade. I've built an empire on scandals. Mother. Yours is next. But as I turned to leave, Alex's whisper slithered after me. You think you're clean? That Yale app you faked your essays for? I know.
Caro.
We all did. The room spun. Essays? I'd slaved over those. Honest sweat. No lies. Or had I? A buried memory flickered. A late night. Alex's Red Bull-fueled ramblings, suggesting embellishments to impress. Had I listened? Borrowed his words? The doubt wormed in. A crack in my armor. I fled to the valet, heart hammering like a war drum. The drive back to Austin was a blur of taillights and tears I swore I'd never shed. Vengeance Ventures waited, board calls at dawn. A Series B pitched to VCs who saw dollar signs in my grit. But the USB burned in my glove box. A live grenade. Pulled a pin, and they all went down. Alex to prison, Dad disbarred, Mom to the bottle. Or bury it, let the rot fester, and claim my throne unchallenged. The controversy gnawed. Was I the Avenger or just another Harrington? Trading blood for bucks? As the skyline swallowed me, I made the call not to the feds, but to Rico. Double down on the Cayman trace. We're going all in. The boardroom at Vengeance Ventures smelled like fresh venture capital and stale ambition. Leather chairs, frosted glass walls overlooking Austin's tech corridor, and a whiteboard scarred with pivot diagrams. It was 2017 now, and I'd clawed us to a $150 mill valuation. But the ghosts of Dallas clung like humidity. Every pitch deck slide felt like a middle finger to Dad's ledger books. Every hire, a recruit from the underbelly he'd deemed unworthy. Rico had become my right hand, his ink-sleeved arms hammering code, while I glad-handed in Louboutins. We're the disruptors, I'd tell investors. My smile a shark's grin. Fuck the old guard. But Alex's whisper haunted me. Those Yale essays had I plagiarized? Stolen his anecdotes about summering in the Hamptons. We'd never left Texas? I dug through old drives one hungover Sunday. The loft silent except for the hum of my espresso machine. There it was, a shared Google Doc from 2011. Timestamps mocking me. His edits in blue. Mine in red, blurring into a Frankenstein of half-truths. To make it pop. Sis, his note read. I'd click save. Blind to the theft. Was that the seed of their betrayal? Proof I was flawed. Just like them?
No.
I slammed the laptop shut. Excuses were for the weak. I funneled the doubt into fuel. Greenlighting a new arm. Retribution AI. A suite of tools for whistleblowers, anonymous data dumps, encrypted leaks, all powered by our blockchain backbone. Marketed it as empowerment tech, but deep down, it was my Excalibur. Forged for one quest. The Cayman's trace took 3 months. Rico's bots sifting shell companies like a digital dredge. We uncovered the web. Alex's poker debts laundered through Mom's charity foundations. Dad's cut funneled to offshore mistresses. A photo surfaced in the files, grainy, time-stamped 2014, Alex in a Belize cabana. Coke-dusted mirror on the table. Some faceless model laughing. But the kicker? A wire from my own probation slush fund. $20K I'd earned, waitressing. Rerouted to bail him out of a DUI. Unknowingly. They'd hacked my accounts. Used my fresh start as their escape hatch. Rage boiled over into action. I flew private to Miami first class all the way, champagne popping like victory shots, and met with a fixer named Marco, a Cuban expat with ties to the feds and a fee in crypto. You want them broken or buried? He asked over ceviche, his gold tooth flashing. I sipped my mojito, ice clinking like chains. Broken. I want them to see me coming. The op rolled out in phases. Phase 1. A concerned citizen tipped to the IRS, flagging Dad's mistresses as tax dodges. Audits hit like hurricanes, freezing assets and spawning headlines. Harrington Oil scion in tax evasion probe. Mom's prayer circle imploded. Invitations dried up faster than West Texas rain. Phase 2. Brittany, Alex's wife, got a dossier via certified mail, photos, ledgers, even a video of him snorting lines at a business retreat. She lawyered up for divorce, citing irreconcilable depravity, and sued for half the estate. Alex spiraled, checking into rehab in Sedona, only to bolt for Vegas again. Dad called then, the landline in my loft shrilling like a banshee. I let it ring twice before picking up. Caroline, he growled, voice gravel from unfiltered camels. This is you, isn't it? The leaks. The goddamn audits. Static crackled. I could picture him pacing the study.
Scotch in hand.
What do you want?
Money?
A board seat. I laughed. Low and lethal. I want what you took. Daddy. My name cleared. My life back. Silence stretched, taut as a noose. And Alex's head on a platter. He exhaled, a wheeze of defeat. Family doesn't rat family. You did, I countered. First rule of Harrington hypocrisy. He hung up, but the fracture lines spread. The family business teetered, stock dipped 40%. Partners bailing like rats from the Titanic. I swooped in with an unsolicited bid. Vengeance Ventures. Acquiring 51% of Harrington Investments for a steal. Framed as synergistic merger. The board, stacked with Dad's cronies, resisted, but Marco's persuasion, whispers of deeper probes, tipped the scales. Closing day. I strode into the Dallas HQ like a conqueror, my team in tow, signing papers amid stunned silence. Alex confronted me in the lobby,
Gaunt and wild-eyed.
fresh from another bender. You fucking traitor, he spat, veins bulging in his neck. This was ours. I adjusted my cufflinks, real gold now. Not heirlooms. Ours? You mean the empire built on my back? He lunged, fist cocked, but Rico's guys pinned him. As they dragged him away, he snarled the twist I'd half feared. You think Mom and Dad were the villains? Check the essays.
Caro.
You started it, lying to get ahead. We just balanced the scales. The words landed like shrapnel. Balanced? Or buried? I retreated to the corner office, Dad's old haunt, reeking of cigars and regret, and rifled the desk drawers. Buried in the false bottom, my Yale rejection letter. Not acceptance.
Forged.
And a note in Mom's script. She'll thank us one day. Better a wife than a whore in New York.
Whore.
The word they'd hurled at my ambitions. Now ink on paper. They'd tanked Yale themselves, preempting my flightiness with sabotage. But the real gut punch? A paternity test. Dated 1995. Alex Harrington. 99.9% match to Richard Harrington.
Mean it?
Tucked beside it. And signed. Sample inconclusive.
Seek counseling.
Inconclusive.
Meaning?
Dad, wasn't mine. Mom's affair. Hushed up. And me, the bastard cuckoo in the nest, bearing the sins to protect the real heir. The room tilted. All those years of favoritism. The slaps for acting above your station. It wasn't misogyny alone. It was erasure. I was the secret, the mistake they covered with my blood. Tears came then, hot and unbidden, soaking the letter. Vengeance? It tasted like vomit. I called Marco off. No feds. No indictments. Just the acquisition, stripping them bare without bars. Let them live in the ruin, whispering my name like a curse. As the sun dipped over the prairie, I poured a scotch, Dad's brand, and toasted the mirror. To family, I murmured. May it fuck you forever. Yet doubt lingered, a shadow in the triumph. Had I become them, scheming, flip-flopping on mercy? The climax loomed, a family summit. My summons delivered by courier. They'd come crawling, or I'd burn it all. But as Rico buzzed about the next pivot, I wondered, was revenge the fortune? Or just another cage? The summit was set for Thanksgiving, irony's cruelest joke, at the old estate. Now half mine by proxy. I'd flown in on Vengeance's Gulfstream, landing at Love Field under a sky bruised purple with storm clouds. Austin felt like a skin I'd outgrown. Dallas was the scar tissue, itching for excision. Brittany had taken the kids to her mama's in Houston, divorce papers en route. Alex was AWOL, holed up in a Fleabag motel off Harry Hines. drowning in denial and doers. Mom and Dad, waiting like cornered coyotes, the house lights flickering through barren oaks. I arrived at dusk, tires crunching gravel. No entourage this time, just me, in jeans and a cashmere sweater. The USB in my pocket, like a loaded .38. The door creaked open before I knocked. Mom stood there, frielier than I remembered, her once coiffed hair a silver tangle. "Caroline," she breathed, eyes red-rimmed. No hug, just a step aside. The foyer cold as a mausoleum. Dad nursed a highball in the den, the fire crackling low. "Sit," he grunted, gesturing to the wingback that used to be mine for ladylike posture lessons. I perched on the edge, spine steel. "Let's cut the prodigal bullshit. You know why I'm here." He swirled his drink, ice clinking judgment. "To gloat? Rub our noses in your windfall." Windfall. As if my billions were lotto luck, not knights coated blind on notos. Mom hovered by the mantel, clutching a rosary, lapsed Catholic guilt.
Probably.
"We did it for you, darling. To keep you safe." Safe. The word exploded, echoing off the beamed ceiling. "You framed me for fraud. Sabotaged Yale. And that test." I slapped the paternity printout on the coffee table, the paper whispering accusations. Mom gasped, hand to throat. Dad's glass froze mid-sip. "How did you?" "Doesn't matter." My voice cracked, but I pressed on. The betrayal of Floodgate. I was the dirty secret. Mom's indiscretion. Dad's resentment. "So you made me the villain. The girl who didn't need Yale because she wasn't even yours." Silence swallowed the room, thick as smoke. Dad set his glass down, deliberate, his face a mass cracking. "It was one mistake.
Caroline.
Your mother. She was lonely. The business trips. But Alex, he's Harrington blood. The legacy. Legacy. Their totem. Carved from my marrow." Mom sank to the sofa, tears carving tracks through powder. "We loved you. In our way. The plea deal, it shielded you from worse. If the truth came out, you'd be nothing. Ostracized. Ostracized. Their fear, projected like a hex. Better to be the thief than the whore's whelp." I hurled it back, the slur from her note landing like a slap. She flinched. "I never." "You did." The fire popped, embers scattering like fleeing truths. "And Alex? He knew. Used it to gaslight me. Flipped the script. You started it with the essays. But that was him too, pushing the lies. Then blaming me when it bit back." Dad leaned forward, elbows on knees. The patriarch pose fraying. "Enough. What now? You own the company. Take the house. Hell, take my balls in a jar.
Just end it."
His eyes, bloodshot, held a plea I'd never seen. Vulnerability. Raw as roadkill. The climax crested then. A wave of choices crashing. I could hit send on the DOJ email queued on my phone. Full exposure. Their empire ash. Alex in stripes. Mom in a psych ward. Controversial? Sure, destroying a family for a personal vendetta, even a rotten one. Or mercy, walk away. Let the acquisition gut them slow. Claim my happy ending as tech titan, untethered. But the twist uncoiled in my gut, slimy and undeniable. As I stared at them, shriveled, spent, I saw not monsters, but mirrors.
Me.
wielding power like a whip, flip-flopping from victim to tyrant. The essays? My complicity. The slush fund reroute? I'd ignored red flags. Too hungry for escape. No one clean. All gray. Smeared with ambition's filth. I came for answers, I said finally, voice steady as the coming storm. Not blood. I stood, pocketing the papers. The company's mine. Sell what you can. But the files? They stay buried. With me. Mom sobbed, reaching. Forgive us. Dad just nodded. Broken clockwork. Outside. Rain lashed the windshield as I gunned the rental toward the highway. Forgiveness? A lie, I told myself. The fortune was built. Yes, yachts in Capri. Covers of Wired, but the cost? A soul pickled in spite. Readers would debate it over book club wine, heroic restraint, or coward's cop-out, justice served cold, or grudgingly warmed. As Dallas faded in the rearview, my phone buzzed, Rico, with news. Alex just turned himself in. Full confession. Says it's for the kids. Voluntary? Or my shadow work? The line blurred. Endless as the blacktop. I cranked the radio, Springsteen wailing about ghosts in the wires, and laughed. Bitter as black coffee. Girls don't need Yale,
they said.
But empires? We build those in the dark. One betrayal at a time. And, in the end, the fortune gleamed. But the crown? It fit crooked. Heavy with what-ifs.